Yo, what's up? We're live. We're back. It's your boy. You know what? Hold on. It's not your boy Eric Esteban because I am never going to refer to myself as your boy anymore because I am a man. I am a 50-year-old man and I'm not a boy. So I am not going to. But I wanted to man up and say I'm sorry for missing Friday's episode. I know I said I would never miss a Friday episode, but I feel like we should really switch to Mondays, and which is why I'm doing this today, why we're doing this live, and why I'm going to upload this as soon as we are done with this interview. But I have to first bring back my co-host, my cohort, my partner in crime, Chris Mateo. What's up, Chris? How you
Hey.
doing, brother?
Oh man, it's the man. Is that the news? That's a big news that you're no longer a boy?
I am not the boy. It's not your boy Eric Esteban. It's the man Eric
The
Esteban
man, Eric.
forever.
That's
After
what I
that
heard.
Ken and Friends show, I can't front. I got to be a man for the
Yeah,
rest. I live in LA too. I got to be like, I can only wear a red sweatshirt when I'm manly. For real.
that's what I was going to ask you. I'm glad you brought that up. I want to know, one, obviously I've been seeing everything online, but what was it like down there in LA? Like in that feeling, like during, after, like I bet it was all just charged up, but what was it like for you and for LA after that just epic event with Kendrick? Like what was
I
it
mean, I
like?
can't front. I will probably tell my grandkids that I was there. I'm not going to lie. I'll lie and say, yes, your Lolo was there and Kendrick Lamar played not like us 35 times in a row. And then I pass out from exhaustion. That's what I'm going to say
Yeah.
to my grandkids. But in real life, I streamed that shit on Amazon Prime, and I watched a few concerts. Like I watched like my kids like Taylor Swift, so I watched that HBO Taylor Swift, and I've watched a few Beyonce concerts that have streamed, and I have never like stood up and screamed like I was at the actual con. I felt like I know my kids and my wife were in the other room watching it TV in the other room, and they were like, "Who is this crazy person screaming?" It was amazing. I mean, even I had to say, like, it even because I'm a big fan of Nipsey Hussle, and I was very it affected me when he passed because it was a tragedy. Obviously, he was shot in front of his business, and his whole message, the marathon continues, and you're on a marathon in life, and all that. I really connected with that, and so the tribute for Nipsey Hussle was something that I really it touched me. I got a lump in my throat a little bit because I really did. Yeah, I was a big fan of Nipsey Hussle. But as far as being here in LA on the West Coast, and I mean, even I feel like even up in Sacramento, you felt it a little bit because there was a certain level of just like it was. Look, I'm always going to be a guy from Chicago. I'm always going to be a Filipino from Chicago. I'm
Yeah.
always going to be Chicagoan. I'm going to root for Chicago teams. I'm always Chicagoan. But that night at Ken and Friends, the pop out, I felt a little bit Californian, just by osmosis, by being in the atmosphere. I
Yeah.
felt I was proud to be, and I loved living here in California. So it's California has in a lot of ways with the culture, the Filipino American culture here. Speaking like, in the parallels of Not Like Us and, fighting against the culture vulture of Aubrey Drake Graham and, and all that stuff. And even the culture vulture episode of Miscellaneous and Brown and the episode that Mitch and I recorded because, Mitch was there since I really identified with a lot of that stuff because here's this guy, Drake, who's in a lot of ways manipulating the culture for his benefit
Yeah.
without paying respect. And when you break it down, like even like the stuff where he's buying Pharrell's chains and buying Tupac's ring and all these weird things where it's very colonizer activity where you're almost making a British museum of your artifacts of hip
Yeah.
hop artifacts almost.
Yeah. Prove
And
that you
so
belong or
I really
something.
connected with that because of the Tagalog Kurt stuff in my own career and my own comedy and how I really feel like in a lot of ways there's a lot of Caucasian Tagalog speakers who benefit from our culture without showing it the proper respect. They in a lot of ways they Drake our Filipino culture and that's part of why this whole I connected so much with this beef and so much with this thing, because it was almost the authentic artists and the authentic culture reclaiming the rights to their culture, to their art, so and I very much empathize with that in relation to the conflict I've had with all the different, and at the end of the day, my conflict isn't with them, the Caucasians that are
Yeah. Can I ask?
They're vulturing it, but it's not my conflict isn't with them. It's with the media that covers them and treats them like stars.
Yeah, for sure. Can I ask though? Have you just coined the term Drake as a verb? Like, can we just use that now as like when somebody is a cultural vulture, or taking the authenticity and the genuine, the foundational essence of someone's culture, just calling it Draking something? Like, oh man, you just got.
You could call it that, but see, because when I first talked about Tagalog Kurt, I compared him to Rachel Dolezal, because it was a white lady claiming Black culture, and in the same way that Kurt, because I don't know if you guys know the story behind Tagalog Kurt and I, but he slipped into my DMs and tried to follow me. And I blocked him and told him, don't follow me. You can still keep stealing jokes from Joe Coy, and you can't steal my jokes. Because I know that fool to have an Ewok joke on his fucking stream in a hot second if he was following me. Because if you look at he literally is a vulture of Filipino culture. And he treats it like a carcass, like a vulture would. But enough about them. I don't like talking about I mean, I do like talking about them in that I want to remind Filipinos who are watching this and listening to this to unfollow. But at the same time, if you don't want to unfollow but you want to listen to this, trust that will be a repeated message that y'all should let Filipinos be the stewards of our culture and not allow the colonizers their anyway. You always know I can turn a Kendrick conversation into
of course
a colonizing conversation.
That's part of your stewardship. That's kind of your job. But I think like what we did last time, when I jumped into the whole let's talk about some positive things happening. You said, as a steward, as keepers of our Filipino culture, we might have to jump into this earlier, but you want to talk about, since we're going to be covering the rest of the week, what's going on in San Diego and you and Filipino culture itself? Like what's going on there? You're going to be down there for like a year or something, right? 10 years. They're signed you a contract.
I've been sentenced to 10 years in San Diego. Now, I'm going to be in San Diego 3 weekends in a row, starting. So this Sunday, June 30th, is Ube World with Mikey. Shout out to Mikey Perry, the Filipino king of San Diego. And then I'm back again June 7th for a pregame for 420. It's my first cannabis themed book show at the Mic Drop again. So two weekends in a row at the Mic Drop. And then on July 13th, I will be. So that's the pregame 420 as on July 7th. And then July 13th, I will be at the Phil-Am Friendship Day Phil-Am Friendship Festival in San Diego, hosting and co-hosting that festival for the 3rd year in a row.
That's awesome.
Boom. They not like us. They not like us. They not like us.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. Yeah,
go ahead. Good.
I was just gonna say, I don't know if because it's Joanne Fields that set it up every year. It's like she picks a date when she I don't know if she just follows my schedule, but it's like when my family and I are just not in California or we're just out of town. That's a weekend.
Didn't we meet in person at one of the Phil-Am Friendship Days? Weren't you there?
No, I was supposed to, but I think was it somebody was over there that we both knew, and I was like, "Hey, go say hi to Eric because he's gonna be there."
Who's the lady that we were podcasting with for a little while and zooming with?
Was it Melissa?
Yeah, no, not Melissa, not Melissa Ramoso. younger lady, because we were talking about doing some stuff for transplants and
It's Kyla Aquino Irving.
Kyla Kino. Yeah, there you go. That's who I met at the Film Friendship Day
Okay,
in person,
okay, yeah,
and then we want to reconnect, and I reconnected with you during that time too,
yeah,
because we were zooming with Kyla. There you go.
yeah.
That's what it was.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, no, I. So it's weird that you ask about this up top, because there's a weird, almost line in comedy that I'm walking a little bit right now, in that I'm excited and very proud to have hosted some of these bigger festivals, 2 and 3 years in a row, and been asked to come back and host multiple times. But at the same time, it's almost like I'm starting to feel like I'm repeating myself.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I need to, I don't know if it's not, I don't think I'll ever stop hosting festivals like this and doing stuff like this, but maybe it's time to start maybe even producing my own festivals, and producing comedy festivals, and specifically geared towards Asian Americans, because they have one on the East Coast. They have, I think it's Asian Comedy Festival, if I'm not mistaken. So I would think that there'd be something. I mean, there's been a few here, but there's never been. I want me, when I do stuff, I try to do it more substantially, and I'm trying to move a little bit slower, but with more purpose.
Yeah.
And that's what this whole podcast is about. The whole thing with comedy. It's like, I know that there's going to be a time where I should pass the baton, especially in San Diego, to Mikey Perry, because he's a brilliant host and he's a great host, and he's local. So he should be the guy there that hosts those events, and then I come down and, do a set or whatever that is, however my career is going to evolve. But it's funny to, when, with perspective, you look back and you look forward on what you're doing, and I'm like, okay, well, we got to start figuring that, and again, that's part of this podcast, that's part of trying to multi-platform everything that we're doing, that's up to and including your writing.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. One thing that came to mind, you just reminded me. I spoke to somebody, I want to say it was 2 weeks ago, but they had mentioned that if we wanted to, I was planning. I plan like these community nonprofit events, fundraisers. I think I mentioned to you, we might be having you come up to Sacramento in October to host this Filipino American History Month event in Elk Grove, things like that. But it's all connected to like our community and nonprofits. I mean, like in terms of your, your direction, your values, like the purpose behind it. I mean, it'd be really fun to do some type of charity event where it is Filipino comedians for the Filipino community, regardless of where it is. But that's an interesting spin because, yeah, there are comedy festivals, there's Asian comedy festivals, there's Netflix as a joke, like all these great things where comedy is celebrated. But with the purpose of it, like they approach me because, like, you want to get into comedy, you want to make people laugh. Let's do this as like some type of benefit thing that like people have done in the past and whatnot. But it's something that somebody had mentioned to me, and if we really wanted to up in Sacramento, we might be able to get other comedians. Your name was thrown around, Rex's name was thrown around, and just to have something like pretty, like you said, substantial more than anything. And I think the substance there being we're bringing joy. It's funny. It's well produced, and it's going to be benefiting some significant nonprofits that help students, that help disadvantaged folks, things like that. I think it would be really fun, and that's like two of my worlds coming together. Just a thought.
And that's, to me, the next thing. It's promoting my comedy through promoting issues that I care about.
Yeah,
And connecting those, again, it's what this podcast is about. It's, I'm not going to say that my opinion is, gold or anything. This is all these views that are expressed on this podcast are just my views. Whether
yeah,
you agree, if you agree with them, if you don't agree with them, Cool. Listen, don't listen. I'm like Eric Kripke on The Boys. He talked about, oh shit, y'all are so woke. This show is so woke, and Homelander's supposed to. No, I understood that show from the time when old girl squished her landlord's head with her booty cheeks in order to not pay her rent. You knew that show was a woke show. That's woke as hell, to not pay your rent by squishing your landlord with your booty cheeks, squishing his head. You knew that show was woke. If you didn't know that in season 1, then by season 4, if you didn't figure it out, then you're probably a Trump supporter. Let's just
Yeah.
because
after 4 years, you finally figured it out. Like, I just feel bad for you.
if you finally, I took this quote off of, because I know we're going to kind of transition into the debate talk, but I took this quote off of shout out to Frangela. They are part of the what is it, their old Air America crew, Stephanie Miller, and the Sexy Liberal Comedy Tour. And they were also friends of mine and colleagues of mine in Second City in Chicago. So shout out to them, because they posted this quote, and I wanted to read it off, because it is actually and it's them quoting David from the Bulwark podcast. So I'll just read it to practice my cold reading skills.
Okay.
You can warn your friend that he is being conned, and he will get angry at you. And when the whole thing comes crashing down and he loses his money and he can no longer deny that you were right, he will never forgive you. He will forgive the crook, but he will not forgive the people who warned him about the crook. The crook just took his money, but you made him feel dumb. Money is replaceable.
Yeah.
You are made to feel stupid. You never forget that shit. Like, even when you were a kid, when people made you feel stupid and you were really dumb in that shit, and you felt dumb and you didn't want to repeat that shit, that was a feeling that that's a core memory.
Yeah.
Right? That's a core memory of embarrassment.
Yeah.
So imagine when you're an adult, you're a grown ass person who has their job and their life, and you're telling them that they're stupid, and then all of society is telling them they're stupid, and then the guy that they're supporting through his actions is being like, talking about sharks and batteries and swimming and all the other stupid shit that he's talking about. I mean, to be honest, I can't really wait for the debate, because, and I'm pretty sure that the Biden folk are also in the same kind of thing. They're like, don't mute his mic. Let him say all that crazy shit. That's where I'd be if I was Biden. To be like, can you, in my retort, I'd say something, and then I'd hear peripherally what he said. I'd be like, unmute this fool's mic so that all of America can hear what that stupid shit he's saying. Because that's really what the debate tactic should be. It shouldn't be, will you shut up, man? And be like, go ahead, keep talking, man.
Please just let it go, so we can all hear, your brilliant mind and why we're supporting you, or whatever.
We can talk about electric boats and if you would swim towards the electric sunken battery or the shark. I mean, there's already audio. Even his whole, like, the election of 2020 was rigged. He even admitted he lost on audio. It's already out. It came out this week. I feel like this house of cards is crumbling, but I've said that a bunch of times, and I'm not going to say it until he's fully vanquished and either in jail, because we still got to deal with the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And Clarence Thomas. I didn't write that joke, but man, homie is for sale, and he's not on clearance, because he's expensive as hell. He has made a shit ton of money. And then Alito, with his, he controls his wife's uterus, but not her flag hanging skills. How does that even work, homie? How does that even work?
I don't even know.
I think that's part of why I feel like we were talking about it in the pregame. This whole election, this whole thing is a fight against American apathy. Yeah. All of it, because it can be very easy to, I don't want to say lose hope, but, especially be like, my vote doesn't matter with this. And enough people do that. and enough people sit out, and you got 2000 all over again.
Yeah.
Or
And
you got
everything's just perpetuating it because you're hearing very extreme stuff. You're hearing that like it's already predetermined. It's like it's perpetuated through the whole culture of our society, right? It's not. It's been like, okay, it's kind of set the tone for sports is clearly the number one where you're like, okay, well, this is rigged. This is the narrative. You're following the script. All these
and it's
things.
divided on racial lines. Look at what they're doing with the WNBA and old girl from Iowa and the black girl from Louisiana, LSU, and how they're like it's a race war, and one's not getting enough attention and the other's getting fouled too hard, and it's all black and white social war garbage when these women just want to play basketball. It really is a little bit. It is very easy to find apathy, and which kind of brings us back to the top of the thing, and the inspiration that is Mr. Kendrick Lamar Duckworth. Like he, in the way that he grasped and took the keys back to hip hop culture, is in the same way where, in a lot of ways, I see I don't want to say my role, but I want to play a part in doing that for Filipino American comedy. If none of the other Filipino Americans will mention to Filipino American media that you only cover Joe and white people who speak Tagalog, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on. It's my agent. Hold on. This is crazy. We're going to have a call from my agent live on the. Hey, Mark, what's up?
Hey, I just forwarded you. I don't think that these information on the city council meeting tomorrow.
Okay, cool.
If you're around, I'm going to be there. So.
Okay, cool. I'll definitely, because I don't, wait, I have some plans, but I can definitely, what time is it?
It's at 6.
Oh, perfect. Well, then
I don't know if the crazies, if we swing crazies because of that homeless thing 2 weeks ago, but that will be blown over. So.
Well, either way, even if there are crazies, that's good material for me because it'd be a good writing session.
Yeah.
So I'll meet you there at 6.
Yeah, I get there a little early, so yeah, and then I'm going to set up a Nick Zoom. I got to talk to his office for next Tuesday, and then do some other stuff on Zoom, some different things for people.
Perfect, and then I'll set up. I'll finalize July 6th with Nick as well. Nick and Nikki, love it. All right, brother. All right.
Everything good?
Yeah, everything's great, man.
Okay.
I'll talk to you soon, though.
I will talk to you later.
Bye-bye. I love that we took that call just now because that was my agent talking about taking me and bringing me to city council, because I love that my agent believes in what we're doing too. My agent, shout out to my agent, Mark Scroggs from LB Talent. He was like, yo, you got to go to Burbank City Council meeting tomorrow with me and reconnect with Nick Schultz and Nikki Perez, who are the mayor and vice mayor of Burbank, because they're going to be on the show on, fingers crossed, July 6th, guys. July 6th. Stay tuned to the Miscellaneous and Brown podcast, because I'm going to have the mayor and vice mayor of Burbank to discuss guns and cannabis and a whole bunch of different issues facing homeless people and homelessness and a whole bunch of different housing issues and housing prices in Burbank with the mayor and vice mayor over Portos. So it's going to be a Burbank day at Miscellaneous and Brown. Fun that day.
Man. How do I get there just to have Portos, and then you want me to just be the tech person to set up, and I'll just
if we had it like that and we had some sponsors, I could ship you some Portos. Maybe if Portos would like to sponsor our podcast and we could record it live at Portos, that'd be great. Shout out to Portos. I'm gonna tag them in this thing and say, but they don't
more
need
Miscellaneous and Brown
they
than
don't
Portos.
need any promotion from me. Portos got a line out the door every day. They don't need to do any commercials. They need nothing from me. I need everything from Portos because they sprinkle crack into all their food. And that's just a joke. It's just a joke. I'm not saying anything. I'm not spreading bad stuff about Portos. It's just delicious, delicious pastries. And I promised the mayor of Burbank, Nick Schultz, that I was going to have Portos if he came to the podcast. So there you go. Boom. I'm sure everybody promises him Portos because that's the go-to pastry at Burbank. But yeah, that was a trip that my agent just called to talk about that, and we're going to go to the Burbank City Council because yes, the presidential debate is this week, and everybody's going to be talking about national politics for the next 4 months and all this other stuff. But local politics and like the Filipinos and Filipinas that are running for local offices here in California, to me, those are the races that I'm
Yeah.
getting
All
involved in.
politics is local. All politics is local.
Tip
That's what
O'Neill. Tip O'Neill was the first one who coined that, but it's the truth.
it is.
All politics is local. All the stuff that really affects you as a person, all the stuff that really affects your family, all the stuff that really affects you as a Filipino in the culture and how we are in American society and how we're placed and all these different things. It's all local politics where all the substantial changes and or the effects of the changes that are made without your say are happening.
Yeah.
So stay local, man, and know who's your mayor, know who your city council people are, know who your village, if you live in a suburb, your village council is. Heck, know the people on your condo board for real, because these are the people that are going to affect the things that happen in your everyday life.
Yeah.
And I think I think too many political politics podcasts and too many even pop culture podcasts stress too much on the national story and not enough on the local story. And that's why I'm so excited to have Nick Schultz here, because there's so many questions that he can answer. And he used to work for Kamala Harris. So it's like 1 degree removed from having the vice president on the podcast. So look, we're moving and shaking and here at the what'd you say?
Oh, that's where it starts, right? I mean, somebody like that who's just one away from our vice president, there's a reason for it, because those movers and shakers start somewhere, and they may or may not get to the vice presidential office, but they're still making stuff happen, and that influences everything all the way up to her. She's still going to need to know, hey, Nick, what's going on down there? He can say, these are the issues. This is what the people in this city are looking at. This is what people are looking at statewide. They need to know that stuff. So, yeah.
And the really interesting thing about Burbank politics in specifically is that with Nick Schultz, Constantine Anthony, and Nikki Perez, that was the flip. That was the progressive flip that had never happened in the past, however many years in Burbank, where this has remained a very almost conservative hub outside of Orange County here in SoCal. Like Burbank has been a very conservative community in a lot of ways.
And didn't that happen because you guys had like 2 or 3 open seats like at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
Like, wasn't that the reason behind that?
And 3 progressives ran for it right at the same time, and then they all won.
They just took it,
handily, And so I feel like now, especially because like Nick's running for state assembly. Nick Schultz is currently running for state assembly. He just, he qualified in his primary, so he's running for state assembly. And then Nikki Perez is going to be the next mayor, because that's how it works. Like the vice mayor becomes the mayor in the next, and then whoever's has the most seniority on I think that's, and I can discuss it with them. But again, that's rules that you should know in your local podcast, in your local politics, where, how long is your local mayor's term, and what can he do, and what powers can he or she do? Those are the things that and in the case of Nikki Perez, she would be the first, I'm almost positive, because I know she's the first indigenous city council member elected to Burbank City Council. And so I would think that she would also be the first indigenous. I can't remember specifically what either indigenous tribe and or region she's from, but I remember her saying that she was of indigenous descent and that she would be the first in that case. So I like that stuff. That stuff's cool to me. Like Isabel Jurado being the first Filipina running for city council, and also Jessica. What's Jessica's last name again?
Loza.
Thank you, Jessica Caloza. For some reason, look at sometimes but Jessica Caloza, and how she's running for state assembly. She would be the first Filipina to win in state assembly. And then even Robert Bulutao, and how he'd be the first Filipino to being, I think, I can't remember what his district is, but I know he's running for a local city council position in his district, and he would be the first Filipino in that. And it's a hugely, or maybe not the first, but one of the first. And it's a trip to me because all these Filipinos now could quite possibly be the next Rob Bunta, where, you know, they're a higher position in state government and, or even, who knows, national government. Cause you got a congresswoman like Jasmine Crockett, and you can coin a catchy phrase and know how to attack your opponents, you know, and just know how to stand up for yourself at the end of the day. You can become a national figure in a bleach blonde, bad built butch body second.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up too. I think we talk about this pretty often, especially with some of the great guests that you've had. But one thing, especially in the work that I'm doing up here with Sacramento, we have the Filipino Political Action Committee, and it's basically was founded on the idea of having that pipeline, right? We set it up to have the next Rob Bonta. We have, you know, Chris Cabaldan, who was mayor for 20 something years, finally going to be the first Filipino American senator. We've got Mona Pasquill, who was a lieutenant governor under Schwarzenegger for a little bit. We've got, you know, Tani Cantil Sakuye, who's from Sacramento, who's our chief justice. And we've got these amazing folks, but you know, we're trying to make sure that we have a system in place where, yeah, we've got cities like Pinole, we've got Daly City, we've got Jocelyn Manalo, who's been the mayor. You know, we've got folks that are just all over these cities, but we got to have them step up. But they can't do that alone and just resting on their laurels or feeling like this is a Filipino populated city. You know, I'm fine here. It's like, yes, and at the same time, you know, I'm throwing my improv 101 there, but my yes and for them is there are other positions where we need you. It's not about political high stepping. It's not about, you know, what's the next thing for your career. It's we need you in a bigger setting, because in the assembly you need to represent, you know, the millions of people in this state. You know, we have more than half of Filipino Americans live in California. We don't have any more since Rob left, and then since Todd Gloria left to be the mayor of San Diego. And we're, you know, hoping and praying that Jessica steps in to be the first Filipina, but then she'd be the only Filipino assembly member again, you know, which is great, but that's not representative of the millions that live in the state. And so we need to encourage that. We need to take out that crab mentality. We got to lift them up as much as possible and say, like, look, you should run for this. You will run for this. And then this is how we're going to help. Right. And so organizations like PALAD, SAC Phil Pack up here, San Mateo County Filipino Democrats, these clubs are there to set folks up, but we got to do more and say, like, this is how you will do, this is how you'll win. It's more than just money. It's about the campaigning. It's about learning, like, the insider politics, right? Stuff that I have fun with, to be able to say, like, you need to talk to so-and-so and make this happen. We skip a lot of those steps because we think it's just, oh, let's throw some money at it and hope for the best. It's like, no, we could start early enough in high school and college and all these other, like you said, HOA boards, whatever the case may be. You need to know how the system is going to work in order for you to win. So, so shout out to local politics, but, you know, we got to yes and this and make sure that, you know, you're going to be one of several senators in the state, maybe the next California senator representing, you know, just, and then eventually president.
And also, just to say, you may not want to just throw money at those organizations, but if you want to throw some money at this podcast, if you're listening, if you're a Filipino business that wants to be a sponsor to the Miscellaneous and Brown podcast, and you like what you're hearing and you want this message to get out and reach as many people as possible, yo, throw some money at us, sponsors. Filipino sponsors. We can do well you'll throw some money at us, and we will do well to work with it and do good things with it and spread the good crazy gospel of Erick and Chris Mateo.
You align with us, we're going to be your voice. Just give us money to make that voice a little bit louder. Amplify.
Well, and at the end of the day, everybody's asking to join your Patreon and join this and join that. And I understand that it can be intimidating and crazy. So I haven't really, I'm waiting to see what comes of this summer and this election and what, you know, this little show we got building and growing goes, because I have, like I said, we got Nick Schultz coming, we got Nikki Perez coming, we might have some some Sacramento of Filipino American affiliates, and some Rob Bunta people, because you've worked with Rob a lot, and so there's a lot of people that have worked with Rob throughout your history that you're connected with, that you can bring to the podcast, as well as Rob himself. So I'm definitely trying to have this be the place where you go for Filipino American politics, but politics with a little comedy perspective, because I'm not a political scientist. I was a minor in college, but I love this stuff. I enjoy it. This is my TV. I enjoy it. It's entertaining for me to write jokes about this stuff, because it almost keeps me sane, thinking about the craziness that's going on in our politics. You know what I'm saying? Like, it can be a little bleak if you really if you really look at it from an actual realistic perspective. If you can't look at it through a comedic lens, it almost is too depressing to look at it.
Well, speaking of which, having fun with politics, what's up with this debate? Are we going to have fun with it? Do you have ideas on how we can have a little fun with the debate that's coming up?
Well, I will say, like, somebody told me that we could do it like a drinking game, and every time Trump said the word rigged, you would drink. But I feel like you end up with alcohol poisoning if that was the case. Because this whole debate is rigged. This whole election is rigged. Everything is rigged. This judge is rigged. Everything is rigged. Everything. The conspiracies that have festered within this fool's brain, and as far as everything being rigged against him, it's just your classic narcissistic behavior, where you think this song isn't about you anymore, homie. I bet you think this song is about you, but it is not about you anymore. This is about our country. And I feel like, as much as you could talk about Joe Biden stutters and he's old, and maybe he walks upstairs awkwardly or whatever, all the other stuff, I don't give a shit. The man has empathy, and even the past stuff, like, nobody likes the crime bill, but people forget that wasn't a racist crime bill. There were the Congressional Black Caucus during the 90s, when crime was really actually crime. Guess what? I was there. It was my, I was in high school and college all through the 90s. So I saw I didn't have, I couldn't wear certain color shoelaces in high school. Two of my homies didn't make it to high school. They made it to the last page of the yearbook, junior and senior year. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like there was actual real violence back in the day, and it was a different game. So the crime bill in the 90s was different, but that said, if people can admit their mistakes and move forward, that's the type of leader I'm asking for. That's not, you can, and especially, and also, I mean, we can throw in all the other stuff with Biden, with the accomplishments of the Biden-Harris administration from the past 4 years. It's the most with this crippling Marjorie Taylor Greene Congress, still accomplished a bunch of legislative things, almost more than FBR. Isn't that what somebody said? They've accomplished more legislatively than FDR, even with crippling of not having the House of Representatives as their party. So, like, pragmatic, effective governance is all I'm looking for. I'm not looking to be inspired. That was Obama. Not everybody's going to be Obama. You know what I mean? Not everybody's going to inspire like Obama. And even Obama, nobody's perfect, because if you really wanted to break it down and full disclosure, honesty, like Obama did a lot of funky things that empowered Trump later on, like the drone stuff, and how the drone attacks increased after Obama did them and almost validated them so that Trump could do them. So, like, all presidents do bad things, and nobody's gonna be a perfect person because this is not a perfect world. It's just, I don't know. It's hard for me to even, I guess in my older age, I've become so much more pragmatic than passionate, and especially in this election, there has to be almost a passion in your pragmatism.
Yeah.
Because if we're complacent in this election, we could lose it all, because this guy Trump is not. I mean, we don't have to keep. I almost don't like to mention him, but at the same time, the only reason I mention him is because there's not really a choice. I mean, you could go third party if you want. I mean, I've read almost all of Cornel West's books, so there's probably some stuff about his campaign that I agree with. Jill Stein, I know I wish they could find somebody better to represent the Green Party, because a lot of what the Green Party stands for, I could get down with. And then there's RFK and his brainworm. Come on, just stop. Yeah. You can hardly. I can't even deal with his raspy ass voice. I don't want to hear him on a debate. And he might pick Aaron Rodgers as his vice president, or as it was rumored. So, I mean, even if it was just a rumor, the fact that you had to think twice to say, is he going to choose Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, the fact that it's almost could be a reality.
That it's a plausible thought in your brain negates any validation of his campaign at all. Just the fact that he's don't vote. Oh, yeah, he's almost. I was thinking about RFK and how the fact that he's a Kennedy and his campaign is literally an Eddie Murphy movie plot. Remember that movie, Distinguished Gentleman?
Yeah,
where he happened to have the same last name as the senator that had died. And so he ran on his name and then won the senator, because everybody was used to voting for the dead old white dude and ended up being a black Eddie Murphy. I feel like that is the same as RFK. He's like, I'm a Kennedy. You should vote for me. It'd be like voting for JFK. No, it wouldn't. Not even a little bit. Not even close.
No.
I would vote for the brainworm before I voted for RFK himself. I would vote for the worm that infiltrated his brain before I voted for him, because the worm that ate the brain, he obviously got all the good stuff, because everything that's come out of his mouth since the brainworm is.
He's running things anyway.
Man, but I will say, let's close it out with because Trump said that he was going to reveal his VP pick at the debate. So let's hear first your Miscellaneous Brown Monday episode, the first one of hopefully many, because I feel like Monday is a better day for us to kind of give a preview of the week, as well as a post-op of the last week. Monday is a good day to do it. So I figured that we should start doing our episodes. But for your, who are your top, let's say top 3 picks for Trump's VP that he's going to drop? It's going to be his mic drop for his Trump for the debate.
I don't know if they're my top or whatever, just what I'm hearing, because I don't know if it counts as a top if I don't want any of them to win, right? I don't know.
You don't have to like any of them, bro. Come on.
Who are like, who's North Dakota's governor?
Kristi Noem?
No.
Or the other guy, Doug Burgum.
Doug Burgum. I know that his name's been coming up. Who else?
Kristi Noem is South Dakota, right?
Yeah.
South Dakota, like that rock pit where she shoots the puppies.
God.
She's lost it. And she put that shit in her own autobiography. So now, and I said it during your when your homie was on, I'm happy that she put it in her autobiography, because now no one can say shit to Filipinos anymore about being mean and eating dogs. That's all on Kristi Noem now. Christy no owns that whole being mean to dogs shit. She owns all that shit. Now, don't even mention a Filipino and being mean to dogs anymore. Christy Nome put it in her autobiography, period. And she also she shot her whole VP chances away as well. When Cricket was died, so did her VP chances.
God, oh my God.
But you're thinking Doug Burgum?
Probably just because I know his name's come up quite a bit, and I don't know, some fun ones. I'm thinking like fun, like what if this was, I don't know how realistic, but what about like Tim Scott?
I feel like that's the pick. I feel like Tim Scott is going to be the pick. Some people are saying Rubio. There's too many complications because they're both from the same state.
Yeah.
And Rubio is a senator, and he couldn't, be like, no, I'm actually from Louisiana and move. No, he can't do that because he's literally the state senator. So Rubio he can't because Trump's state now is Florida, right? So that negates DeSantis or Rubio, and DeSantis wasn't going to get picked anyway with his white boots. No. But Tim Scott he's been acting the most like Samuel L. Jackson from Django Unchained. Like he's straight up has been acting very much like the house ninja, we'll say. So I feel like he's been so like almost embarrassingly complimentary to Trump in every statement, in even in relation to like when Trump was convicted. Tim Scott was like the dude. And I was just listening to the Native Land podcast, and they were saying that of African-American voters, they were saying that if they were considering Trump and he picked Tim Scott to, like, hey, I'm not racist. Here's a black vice president, right? It would make black voters not vote for him because they hate Tim Scott so much. Because Tim Scott is, he's that character from Django Unchained. Samuel, I can't remember, Nicholas, whatever. I can't remember his name in the movie, but the character of the character of the slave that, was very loyal to the master.
Yeah,
that's Tim Scott, unfortunately, and it's almost sickening. But I feel like that's going to be the pick because, then it almost gives even all of MAGA the whole, hey, no, my guy's not racist and I'm not racist. Look who our vice president is. There's our black friend right there. Tim Scott is willing to be every racist's black friend. That's what Tim Scott is. And that's why I feel like he's probably going to be the pick.
Yeah, he's up there. And then kind of on the same lines, I don't think it's as realistic because for like what you said with Rubio being Floridian, but this guy Byron Donalds, have you heard of him? He's
I feel like it's a shame that they've propped that. Like in any other political climate, this guy would not even get, any coverage. But in fact, with Byron Donald, because I watched a couple of his, I watched his debate with Joy Reid on MSNBC, and the cynical thing about Byron Donald is, and in the same thing with Tim Scott. I mean, let's be honest. Tim Scott has been a state senator for a long time with Mitch McConnell. Isn't that right? In North Carolina or wherever I can't remember where. One of the southern states. So he knows what the hell he's doing. Yeah, and that's the cynical part about this whole thing is that he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's saying and how the words are, being received coming out of his, African-American mouth, and what these words are. They're giving people permission to speak out against DEI programs and giving them permission to be mad about LGBTQ issues that are, and all these different real minority issues. They give credence to the people who are trying to control those smaller communities. It's horrible to me. And Byron Donald's almost the worst of it, because you can see by how he talks, if you watch him talk on television, you can see that he's an intelligent person, and that's what's scary. Same thing with Candace Owens. Same thing with same thing with Tim Scott. Same with any. Let's bring it closer to home. Same thing with Michelle Malkin. She knows what the hell she's doing. She knows exactly what she's doing.
Yeah.
They all do, because they're all profiting from it. I would never, obviously I would never, because look at me, I'm broke as hell. Broke my whole life. So I'm never sold out. But at the same time, to sell out like that is pretty despicable.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think the other one that I think had been mentioned, I think you said her name, Christy from South
Christy
Dakota.
Nome, the dog killer.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
I mean, there isn't a silver bullet for Trump in as far as a VP pick, because his stable of choices is all despicable people who will say and do anything to bring their proximity to Trump closer. They'll say anything. I mean, it's the idea that you would even consider somebody like Rubio when you all were comparing dick sizes in the last debate that you guys were together with. I mean, I mean, the campaign ads kind of write themselves with any single one of these VP candidates that we've talked about. They all they've all got their own little skeletons that will be, if I hope, skillfully brought up, because if nothing else, I think the Biden campaign is, I hope, wise, and what there was this line in The Boys season 4 about there was this politician who's running for president, and no spoilers, but it talks about this woke shit. So it's in the pop culture. We're talking about it in pop political forums. We're talking about The Boys, and in The Boys there was this line by one of the main characters, Starlight. She can talk about how, you just dropped $78 million for the I'm falling asleep watching Law and Order for the 15th time on repeat on a local channel, and you know what I mean. You spent all this money on TV with people who aren't watching TV anymore. There's nobody watching TV anymore. It's all on the internet. So if you're not doing anything on the internet and you're not trying to activate the population on the internet, then you're really not doing anything nowadays. Yeah. And so that's where I feel like it's almost like a clarion call for the Philams for Biden association that we're with, and for all the online people and people who have an online presence to kind of like get the message out. And that's kind of where we're at. So I hope that this episode has kind of enlightened you a little bit, but also we're going to hit you hopefully with a post debate recap. We want a debate recap on Friday. Yeah. We could just hit them next Monday. What do you think?
Let's see how we feel. Let's see how charged up we are after the debate. We can do something simple on Friday, just like even like a 15-minute recap to like, hey, we predicted this right or this wrong, or like we know these people that actually followed through on the drinking game, and we're hoping that they recover a lot quicker than expected, like things like that.
Yeah, it took me a day and a half to get over alcohol poisoning after my wedding. So just so you know,
I did see some rules though. I did look this up after we were talking about the drinking game, because I've never done one for the president. I know it's out there, but for the debates, I saw some really fun ones. One was like for the duration of any of the handshakes, you just chug. See how long that goes. You just chug something.
Because Trump then be holding in the hand a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to do that. I don't think Biden's going to let him do that. I feel like let over under. How you think Biden will shake his hand at the top?
Yeah, I think that's a very. I think.
You think it's going to be cordial? I think it's going to be. I feel like these fools haven't seen each other in a long time, and both of these guys really don't like each other, no matter what. And whatever diplomatic things that Biden says, Biden really doesn't like this fool. Like he was going to retire after Obama. He didn't want to run. Remember, he was like, Hillary, go ahead. Like he didn't want to run, but then he realized that he was the only one who could beat this fool. And like I'm looking to see some. I want to see some fight in Biden. I want him to because I feel like some fight in Biden. And if Biden shows some fight in this debate, it will fire up people like us.
Yeah.
Because I don't want him to just sit back. As much as I would like for him to, in parts of the debate, strategically, sit back and let him skewer himself. There are sometimes like he has to tell the American people
I can see
that
that,
he's
especially that
got to attack him in some ways. He's got to really show that he's the president and that this guy is not even a choice type of thing. You know what I'm saying? That to me is where. And because I feel like, because a lot of people are saying that this debate is more important than the debate in September. And I tend to agree, because if there's anybody independent, undecided, they're going to make their decision after this debate.
Yeah.
Because by September, you're not changing anybody. You're just, I think September, if there is one in December, depending on how this one goes, if there is one in September, it will only be to get out the vote.
Yeah. Okay. I do see. I mean, if we're my other lens would be, yes, I do see him shaking his hands. But the funny thing would be if he shook his hand and he like either looked down and was like, or like just wiped it and then went over to his thing. Just something just really like, yeah, I'll shake your hand. But
I almost for me at this point, with all the stuff that Trump has done, I don't want him to show him any respect. But that's just me. That's probably why I can't be president. It's because I'd punch that motherfucker in the face.
Don't sink his level.
And then I'd want to be, because as much as Donald Trump needs a punch in the face, his son, Donald Trump Jr. and Eric, neither one of those fools have ever been punched in the face, and it shows. And you could tell that they've always been the bully and they've never been bullied back. And somebody need to bully those fools back. Yeah. And if it's, me with my jokes, then it'll be me with my jokes. But I know they're not watching.
All right. So I have just 3.
At least I hope they're not watching, because if he wins, we're fucked, dude.
I've got three drinking game rules. I saw they were bipartisan. I think it'll just be fun for anybody out there that wants to do this. But either take a sip or a shot when the first one is when one candidate interrupts the other. And again, with the new rules, the mics are going to be muted for the non-speaker. That's fine, but they could still interrupt. We know Mr. Orange Hair can do that easily. But take a sip, take a shot if one of the candidates interrupts the other. Number 2, if either candidate talks about his age being or not being an issue. And number 3, if either candidate starts their answer with "look." And so this is
okay. Well, I think Biden starts every sentence with "look," so you'd be drunk as hell with that one.
You're welcome.
I don't want to see. And you're welcome to, because some of you guys are here from the Canacquia podcast. You are welcome to go smoke instead of drink, because I know that they're choose, because I'm probably going to smoke, because if I drink, I'll probably be asleep by the end of this debate. If it's a drinking game where something repetitive that Trump does and or Biden, because they're both, we kind of almost know how this is going to go. I hope, to be honest, I hope that nothing unpredictable happens, because if that's the case, I feel like, I don't know. I don't know what I hope anymore with this stuff, man. It's fucking crazy. It's really weird. And I hope that, the 2028, there is an election, but also like, I hope we have better, younger choices going forward after this election. I hope.
Same. Yeah.
But I guess with that, we will end this podcast. We've been going an hour, bro. This is so fast. But we've been going an hour, and this has been the first episode of Miscellaneous and Brown Mondays. Sorry that we missed Friday, but I feel like this is a better day to release the episode, and also kind of, again, give you a preview of the week and give you the week that was prior to this, and also just kind of chill out, bullshit, and talk about pop culture and talk about politics, and so stay tuned for more with me and Chris. Subscribe to this on and like and share on YouTube, and then
Comment.
we will have the audio up this afternoon, so you can have it on all the different podcast platforms, and you can subscribe and like and review and rate on all those wherever you get your podcast from, especially Apple Podcasts or Spotify, because that helps us with the algorithm. But leave a review, share us, like us, love us.
Yeah. Give us
We're
feedback.
Miscellaneous and Brown. I'm Eric Esteban.
Chris Mateo.
And we'll see you next Monday. Peace, y'all.